does material come out the way the president has said it's going to?
Kristen, we are hearing word that Steve Mnuchin and Robert Lighthizer were not in favor of doing this. Tell me how you believe this came to be, and was there actually communication with the Mexican government about this before it happened, or did this all start with a tweet?
Well, there's a sense, Ali, that this was rushed, one official acknowledging that this was done on a very quick timeline. And we have confirmed that there was a fair amount of division here behind the scenes about how to move forward and the extent to which folks on Capitol Hill and in Mexico were briefed. Now, what has the level of communication been? We asked Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders earlier today if they gave Mexico advance warning. Her response was a bit of a dodge, Ali. She said, look, we have given them plenty of warning over the past several months that we're not happy with what we're seeing at the border. The fact that you do have these really record numbers of migrants who are flowing across the border. Now, the Mexico Foreign Secretary speaking out just moments ago, essentially saying that there will be talks between top Mexican officials and U.S. officials, and adding this, Ali, the treatment of Mexico is unfair and does not make economic sense to anyone. So a defiant posture from Mexico about all of this, Ali.
Austin, let me just tell you something that Peter Navarro said. He was asked about the impact on Americans, both about, he was talking about China initially, but of these Mexican tariffs. There's a message that seems to be coming out of the White House that is inconsistent with what people like you and people like Bill tell us about who pays for these tariffs. So let's just play what Peter Navarro said, and I want to get your comment on it.
This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of the Trump tariffs. China, for example, bears the burden of the tariffs in the form of lower exports, lower prices for their products, lower profits for their companies. The government of China has borne the burden of those tariffs in the form of lower tax revenues and a lower rate of growth.
But so is
Mexico,
the American consumer.
But no.
I mean, importers pay for it.
No, the governments of China and Mexico will pay for it.
Is there anything that Peter Navarro said there that made economic sense, Austin?
Did he start? No. Did he start with hello? Maybe that was accurate. Look, people have. This is not a random event.
No.
We have studied tariffs. Economists have studied tariffs for decades, and we've studied these tariffs, the ones that he was talking about. And 100% of the burden of those taxes, and tariffs are taxes, 100% of that burden was paid by the American consumer. The prices went up by the full amount of those tariffs. Now, I think they're not actually going to do this with Mexico. I think this is just the president trying to get people to stop talking about Robert Mueller and the things, the press conference, and that it's making the president look bad. Because this policy toward Mexico is incredibly stupid. It is both a tax on American consumers of billions of dollars. It is also a direct tax on American manufacturing. The people who are the most opposed to this, who are looking at each other saying, what are you talking about, are American automakers, because the cars they're making in the United States, employing thousands of Americans, have high parts content that's coming from Mexico. And it's a tax on American car makers, not foreign car makers, because more of our parts come from Mexico than Korean cars, Japanese cars, etc. This puts the in dumb, as they would say.
Bill, there's been another effect to this, and that is it sometimes happens. The currency, the Mexican peso, has dropped on this news, which somewhat offsets this for the purpose of higher prices, right? Because if something costs less against the dollar,